So we are nearing the end of Black Ops 4's life cycle, and anyone who's been playing this year will know how controversial this installment of the series has been. I thought it would be good to break down its three modes and ask, is Black Ops 4 the worst Call of Duty to date? Let's get into it. Call of Duty's signature multiplayer returns in the way that you would expect from Treyarch. If you either enjoyed Black Ops 2 or 3, this feels like a weird mix between the two. Pick 10 loadouts are back, but there are a few notable changes in the core gameplay that ensure that this iteration of multiplayer differentiates itself. Firstly, you can no longer choose your lethal or secondary equipment, unless you sacrifice a specialist ability, which gives you more space to choose other perks or attachments for your class and guns. I think this decision was made to avoid a mix of grenade and ability spam. Probably the best way to go about it, especially considering the importance of specialists and their abilities. Now when you start a match, not only do you choose your pre-built class, but you choose a specialist, who comes with an ability which charges relatively quickly, and one which is more like an ultimate and you might only get to use once or twice in a match. These are almost Overwatch style abilities and let you see through walls, place down barricades, boost everyone on your team's health, or give you a super powerful weapon to take down enemies with. Each specialist does feel useful, and I can imagine that in team-based or competitive game modes, the composition of your team may actually matter, but in public matches, people just pick whatever they feel like, and to me, specialists don't feel like they make a big difference in modes like Team Deathmatch. They work best in objective-based modes where you can viably defend or attack a point using their abilities, rather than just spamming them on the first enemy you see. I know I talked about the prevention of spam, but don't worry, this is Call of Duty after all. And at its core, this series has always been about running around, shooting people, and trying to get kill streaks by staying alive, and then getting killed by some bullshit streak or person we couldn't see or react to. It's way worse in this game though. There isn't really a counter to many of the ultimates, and some of them just feel so cheap. The Tempest, or the Ballistic Shield, or the Dog are frustrating and annoying. The spam becomes unreal sometimes because the same kill streaks are back, but now you also have these ultimates which charge faster the better you're doing. So imagine you're the top scoring player and you've got enough kills for your Hellstorm missile and your Sniper's Nest, and the enemy team is trying to get to the hard point, but the streaks keep killing them when they spawn, and by the time they get past them, this player has his grenade launcher ready again and spams the point. I really think score streaks should have had a total rework in this game if they were going to push the specialists as hard as they did, which is why Bare Bones mode is one of the best things to happen to this game. This mode strips away all of the specialist abilities and it's really fun, if only because it feels way more skills based and you can actually focus on the gunplay, and you are interrupted and abruptly killed by things out of your control less frequently. It doesn't always feel like shit because at least you know the person who killed you earned those kill streaks by shooting well. Treyarch rotates Bare Bones mode out of the game all the time, and I can't find a match anymore, but it was the best fun I had playing multiplayer in this game. You may not agree with me, but I think the absence of War mode, which debuted in World War II, is a real waste here. The mix of objective-based gameplay involving tank escorts, planting bombs, and capturing points was to me really compelling and was the most fun I had in a COD game in a long time. This mode also made snipers feel like they were being used for their intended purpose, which I struggled to find in Black Ops 4's multiplayer. Instead, they seem to be more like laser shotguns. I feel like this mode would have translated over to Black Ops 4 quite naturally because of the specialists, and the removal of streaks would have made for some really solid Overwatch-style gameplay. In its place, there are a number of modes such as Safeguard where you escort a robot, but without a map designed for the mode, it feels like a bit of a step backwards and a missed opportunity. Another major change to the multiplayer is the redesign of the health regen system. Now you need to inject yourself with a needle to regen health, an ability everyone is equipped with. Whilst a lot of people have praised how much this changes up gameplay, I'm really not so sure. I found that now after each gunfight I'm healing rather than reloading, and this is because many guns now have more than 30 rounds. The pace and rhythm of gunfights has certainly shifted, especially with a much longer time to kill than previous installments, and the threat of being vulnerable while you wait for your healing ability to recharge, accompanied by the specialist abilities that can't be used every life, encourage a more tactical and thought out approach to fights, which is definitely a change for the better. Or you can just run through and use your grav slam on the first unfortunate person you see because you are playing team deathmatch and aren't going to get an opportunity to get more than one kill. Shooting is better than it's ever been here though. All the guns are super responsive, reward accuracy, but only when aiming down sights. Guns don't sound realistic at all, sounding at times like a toy. Obviously with the lack of real guns, I don't exactly expect them to sound realistic, but even the real guns don't sound realistic. Treyarch has opted for a more punchy sound design that goes well with this kind of cartoony aesthetic. It's pretty satisfying, but the unrealistic sound combined with the janky and repetitive recoil animations made me feel as if I was never really shooting real guns. The maps in multiplayer are, as usual, a mixed bag. There are a lot of maps here, but a concerningly high number of them are remakes or remasters from previous titles. I wouldn't really count the variant maps such as Firing Range Night, Arsenal Sandstorm or Seaside Sunset as new maps, as they don't bring anything except for visual changes. Basically every map is a variation of the now standard 3-lane structure, varying in size and with specific flanking routes and connecting paths between the lanes. They work in a way that you can easily predict where enemies are going to be spawning in most modes, as well as understanding the basic flow of each map right off the bat. But of course, with this comes a lot of predictability and eventually starts to feel a little repetitive and stale. It's kind of a shame that a COD game, whose mechanics encourage a more tactical playstyle and with such good gunplay, lack maps that complement this. I think a mix of map sizes and layouts or something more experimental such as War Mode could have really worked in this game. Yeah, this would have probably led to maps that people hate, like Gustav Cannon or Stonehaven Castle, but you know, with Blackout having vehicles and such a large map, it could have been really interesting to see something different, with greater freedom for how the player moves through the map like in Blackout. Instead, most of the maps are repetitive and forgettable. It seems like Nuketown is the go-to map, as you might be able to tell from the gameplay here. It's the same layout as usual, and with Specialists it's total chaos, but it's for sure the most fun and popular map, because of how quickly gameplay moves. Luckily in a visual sense though, the maps here are pretty fantastic. Of course you get your super generic, near future, robot factory type stuff, but there are heaps of unique and visually distinct maps like Icebreaker or Morocco or Contraband, and some classic maps from previous games get a visual update, most translating quite well. I like the small details and props lying around, things that you unfortunately don't notice in casual gameplay, such as the tigers on Ascendia, I think I said that right, or the full hidden narrative of a shipwreck crew on Contraband. It's signature Treyarch detail, but it's just something you gotta really look for, otherwise you're just not gonna see it. The variety here is less than the geographical design of the maps, but their visual design. I also just want to talk about the context in which we're playing these maps. If you look at previous COD games, you can roughly gauge how they are constructed. Most of the time you can tell the campaign was designed first, and its assets and levels were used to construct the rest of the game. This means that the campaign usually dictates the tone, style, and settings of other parts of the game. Look at Black Ops. Its campaign focuses on Vietnam and the Cold War, and as a result, most of the multiplayer and zombies share its settings and themes. This game, not having a campaign, has led to a total lack of a distinct identity. Read the map descriptions. They sound super interesting, but they never explain why the Specialist characters have ended up in conflict here. I can see Treyarch is probably enjoying exploring these settings without dedicating a whole game to doing so, but as I said, all the work that goes into these maps feels like it goes to waste because nobody understands or is looking for the details, and most of the maps are so generic in their layout that they kind of just blend into each other. Unfortunately, multiplayer has sorely suffered due to a number of issues. Black Ops 4 has been plagued by at least one major controversy per month, most of them stemming from the new forms of monetization that Treyarch has implemented into the game. When I bought the game in October 2018, it wasn't difficult to understand. There was a Season Pass or Black Ops Pass, a Fortnite-style Battle Pass system with tiers called the Supply Stream, and a store for cosmetics. Now shit's all over the place. Log in, and you will just be totally overwhelmed by all these prompts asking you to spend COD points on random shit, weapon skins, reserve crates, bundles, tiers, stickers, season pass stuff, characters, weapon charms, death effects, actual weapons. It's so bad that it made me want to stop playing. Once they started adding weapons into the supply stream, I realized there was no way in hell I would ever unlock all of this shit, because I don't have nearly enough time to grind 100 tiers in 2 months. You literally need to play every day for a few hours to unlock everything in the stream, which would be fine if it was cosmetic only like Fortnite, but it's not. There are weapons there. Not to mention, if you miss the event, the only way to unlock these weapons now is through loot boxes or reserve cases. And there are now weapons that can only be unlocked through reserve cases. Each update they add hundreds of new items to these cases, meaning your chances of getting a gun is slimmer and slimmer all the time. Yes, they added contracts that you can grind out to get more reserve cases, but these take ages and often make you play shitty modes like hardcore team deathmatch. Like, thanks Treyarch, I wasn't sick of getting insta-killed already. Did I mention that you can get duplicates as well? Well, don't worry, you can trade 6 reserves for a case, which gives you duplicate protected items. Treyarch made it so that you need to unlock skins for each gun individually and face paints for each character, so you can still get 3 of the same shitty item out of your duplicate protected case. If this is starting to sound like pay to win, free to play, mobile style, monetization bullshit, that's because it is. I'm not going to play against a player with more powerful weapons than me if I never have the prospect of unlocking them myself. This is on top of the traditional level-based unlock system, so it really throws balance out the window. You may have noticed that a lot of this gameplay is using the Daemon SMG, or Demon, not sure how to say that. I pulled this out of a weapon bribe, and it's without a doubt my best gun. Using it is just way easier than any other SMG. It's like turning on easy mode, and because I unlocked that out of reserves, I can equip it as early as level 1. Do you see how this poses an issue to balance? As a pretty big Zombies fan, I bought the season pass. Yes, I know I'm part of the problem. Now honestly, if I was a multiplayer only guy, yikes, I would not be feeling too good right now. So far, there have been a fair few maps added to the game. Honestly, I couldn't tell you how many. I think I played the first 2 that dropped a few times and have never played a Black Ops Pass map since. They rarely come up in rotation. It just doesn't seem like there are enough players to fill lobbies. I think Treyarch has tried to mend this by making them free sometimes on weekends, or making it so that if a friend owns them, you can also play, but they just don't come up because I don't think people even install them. And when they come out, it's just kind of sad, really. It feels like wasted content. There are maps I have literally never played, and what's also disappointing is how many remastered maps are here as well. It screams lazy recycled content. At least the Nuketown in this game is visually different and free to all players, but WMD, Havana, same shit, new skin, sold to you again. At this point, they should just make the maps free to everyone and give pass holders something else, because the season pass model really cannot exist with the other monetization here. The game is just too expensive for the average consumer, and even if you pay that extra cash, you will never experience everything that you paid for. It's just disappointing. So overall, multiplayer has been an interesting mix of new and old ideas, but it's led to systems that feel a bit broken and don't work very well. Between the specialists giving everyone free kills, the rage quit inducing spam, the terrible map designs, the recycled content, and the blatant pay to win mechanics, it's an absolute miracle that this game still manages to be as fun as it is. The fact that despite all of these issues, I can still hop on and have a good time is a testament to how good the core shooting mechanics are, and I want to commend the devs for keeping the game fresh with new game modes that made sure that even when I did get pissed off, I always came back. For me, Blackout is in a weird spot. When it came out, it was undoubtedly the most polished and sleek looking battle royale game. However, since then, other games have surpassed it in terms of both visual quality and gameplay, making it feel somewhat redundant. This is easily the worst looking part of Black Ops 4. It's clear the huge map is putting enormous strain on this now ancient engine. Treyarch has definitely made an effort to change up the visuals of the map with each operation, but it's still generally lacking, especially compared to other games, and for a AAA title in 2019, it's pretty piss poor. In my opinion, the standard Blackout map is way too big for this game. The way gunplay and movement works doesn't feel suited to such a large map. While encounters can be over in seconds, it can certainly lead to moments of pure tension as you wait for the enemy team to find you or are caught behind a tree waiting to get sniped. But it just feels sluggish and slow compared to other games. Not to mention the vehicles are also really clunky, and I don't think they work well in this game. I use them mainly to traverse the map, which, as I said, is just too big for a game like this. There are a couple of things I still like here though. The first thing is the zombies. This is a cool addition to the mode which really capitalizes on the zombie game mode as a whole, bringing weapons, locations, and actual enemies from zombies into the game. Killing either the zombies or the bosses can give you great loot, including powerful wonder weapons, but engaging them can give away your location to other players, so it's a bit risk-reward. I also really like the way that specialist abilities from multiplayer are implemented. Instead of recharging abilities, now you pick them up in the form of consumable items, such as mesh mines, tripwire, barricades, and sensor darts. It makes for an interesting strategic sandbox, as you can fortify a house or location with all sorts of traps to surprise your opponents or defend an area. These plus heaps of different grenade types and a huge selection of weapons from both multiplayer and zombies make for plenty of variation in the strategies that you can use when playing. I also really like the character missions, which act as a fun and interesting way to unlock new characters. They're a bit like Fortnite's challenges, but here you find a character item in the map, and keeping it in your inventory will track the challenges that you need to unlock that character. They can be really easy, such as getting a knife kill and placing in the top 50, or as hard as winning the game. It's cool because the unlockable characters in the game aren't just skins. They have their own voice lines and can even sometimes interact with other characters. Of course, many of the coolest ones are locked behind reserves or are store exclusives, but they are cosmetic only, so it's not too bad. In fact, this is the only mode in the game where how much you paid won't affect your enjoyment. Here, monetization is truly cosmetic only. Whoa, hang on a second. While I was writing this review, an update was released that found a way to bring Blackout into the shitty pay-to-win cesspool that is plaguing the rest of this game. Yep. A battle royale, which people had to pay to access, now has pay-to-win mechanics. Treyarch added Blackjack's Stash, an item crate that spawns somewhere in the map and contains any items the player has unlocked from the reserves or the contraband stream. So if you unlocked the S6 Stingray, a very powerful weapon that can be earned through reserves, and you find one of these stashes, you are guaranteed to get it. Previously, weapons that have been added to the contraband stream have just been added to the standard loot spawns, and you could always pick them up. To their credit, this is only available in special modes like Hot Pursuit or Alcatraz, and not in the competitive solo, duo, and squad modes. But I mostly play these special modes anyways, so it's still quite upsetting. Otherwise, it's probably what you'd expect from a battle royale. Weapon attachments, armor, healing items, supply drops, even vehicles. Blackout is, unfortunately, in my opinion, just not that fun, and is just not worth playing over Apex. I think that it tries too hard to turn Call of Duty into something it's not, and builds a large-scale battle royale out of a game which is supposed to be played on a small scale, which is why Alcatraz is the best thing to happen to this mode. This is a mode that's played on a smaller map. Faithfully recreated Alcatraz Island, which is much less zombified than it was in Blood of the Dead. Here we're just dropped in through portals in the sky rather than helicopters, and you have a few respawns, so you are really encouraged to play more aggressively. This, as well as the close quarters map, brings out the best gameplay here, combining the tension and care needed to play a battle royale, but also the frantic aggression Call of Duty is known for. It feels like the devs have taken a step back from just ticking the boxes on what a battle royale is, and decided to look at what actually works about their game, and the result is a pretty fun original mode. And speaking of fun original modes, Zombies this time around is mostly good news. It's essentially the same arcadey wave-based gameplay which revolves around surviving as long as possible through killing zombies to gain points and spending those points on weapons, perks, and unlocking new areas. There are many changes to the mode as a whole though, and for the first time maps in this game are split between two storylines. The first being the Ether, which has been running since World at War, and the brand new Chaos storyline. Now, choosing the way you want to play before a match is more important than it's ever been. You have to choose elixirs, which replace gobblegums from Black Ops 3 and function in essentially the same way. The difference is now that you can choose 4 which stay equipped for the entire game instead of buying a random one from the gobblegum machine. They have multiple rarities. Anything rarer than a classic is a consumable, and once used, can't be used again. The classic ones will regenerate after being used, making them arguably the best ones. Some are utterly useless and even purposefully so, whilst others are almost a must-have while playing, such as Anywhere But Here. Unfortunately, this is where the pay-to-win has infected zombies. To get rarer elixirs, you gotta spend your Nebulium Plasma in a very fancy-looking loot box system. The more you spend, the better your chances are of getting rare elixirs, and Treyarch has gone and added the overpowered ones from Black Ops 3 like Perkaholic, but in my opinion it's pretty easy to ignore this stuff and just make use of the default elixirs. I do like how Treyarch has made level-based progression work here. As you level up through playing, you unlock different starting weapons, attachments for your guns, different grenades and equipment, as well as special weapons. This means that although you will start at round 1 each time you play, you can also change up gameplay through switching up your loadout when things get stale. The specialist weapons are a particularly fun addition. They charge up through killing zombies, can be activated for 15 seconds, and are extremely powerful for different reasons. Some are perfect for killing zombies, whilst you might equip others in order to revive teammates. There are 4 for each storyline, which helps to further characterize the two. However, there are weapons that are just clearly better than others and you would probably end up picking by default, especially when the level 2 and 3 abilities are unlocked, but it's undoubtedly fun trying them all out. Now, the loadout and weapon armory systems are for the most part, I think, fun additions to the game mode and give you more strategies to try out each time you play, which I think is a good thing. It does overcomplicate things a bit, but some simplicity has been sacrificed for replayability. What I'm not sure about is the overhaul of the perk system. Instead of buying whatever perk you want in the game from the choices you have around the map, now you have to pre-pick your 4 perks with special care to which one you put in the 4th slot, as it's going to have added effects when you have all 4 perks. Now, this certainly works with the progression-based system of zombies, as you can unlock new perks through leveling, but despite people arguing that this system, along with the removal of essential perks like Juggernog and Speed Cola, give the player more choice, I actually disagree. The thing is, I enjoy the freedom of gameplay in the actual game. I want to be able to choose how you play whilst in a match, not before it, and this system limits you in that regard. It does definitely give you more choice to which perks you can use, but you are stuck with your choice for the entire game. I miss the iconic perk machines and their jingles, as well as the map exclusive perks, and the new ones don't even come close to replicating that feeling. I never felt like I really had to have perks at all times due to the increased health. I felt more like the shield was the necessity this time. It had basically replaced Juggernog. Perks have gone from a defining part of the tone of this mode to just another thing in a menu like in multiplayer. I think the solution to this would be to bring back the old system without Jug and Speed Cola, but just have more machines around the map so the player can make more choices in-game. I also have some mixed feelings about the actual gameplay. It feels like such a weird combination of easy and too difficult. On one hand, getting to high rounds is easier than it's ever been. Wonder weapons can be obtained from the box. Some maps such as 9 and Ancient Evil have really simple, multi-layered layouts. You can choose to play with bots, who will absolutely carry you into high rounds. They have hacks and can one-shot zombies with any gun, take barely any damage when swarmed, and will revive you against all odds. Sometimes they'll just let you bleed out, and sometimes they even go AFK, so good job for simulating real players, Treyarch. Unlocking Pack-a-Punch is also usually pretty simple, and can be done relatively early on, not to mention the bonus damage and elemental effects gained when Pack-a-Punching makes a lot of weapons more viable into later rounds. Players also have so many ways to get out of sticky situations. Use a standard weapon to shoot the zombies, open your specialist weapon, use an elixir, trigger the effects of a life-saving perk, use your shield, use your grenades, or don't do anything if you're playing in public lobbies. It's not a struggle to get to higher rounds anymore, because of how easy it is. Setting up can take a while, but you're nowhere near as vulnerable in those early rounds due to the increased health. You only get less vulnerable once you build the shield. Then on the other hand, you'll hit a point in every match where you just stop progressing because you didn't do your homework. You want to build the shield? Too bad, idiot. Walk around the map waiting for the part pickup prompt for 3 years, or watch a YouTube tutorial. You want to build the silver bullets? Fuck you, kid, look it up. Even want to think about doing an Easter egg, you better have 3 hours and a pause button, or a team that can distract zombies, because you're going to need to be doing your bloody research. Doing this stuff gets gratuitous every match. Yes, setting up is part of the fun, but how many people can honestly say that they worked this shit out without some external help? I can't. And I really hate it. It's not quite as bad as it was in Black Ops 3, but there's still 3 layers of content which feel like they're out of reach to most players. The first are those extra basic survivables, the buildables, the shield, the teleporters, things that you can learn pretty easy and use in your later games. The second layer is those Easter egg quests, the things players need to interact with to trigger their quest steps. The third are those final extra survivables, things that you won't 100% need for the Easter egg, but you might want because they're likely to increase your chances of survival. but these are the things that are going to take you the longest and are the hardest to actually get. I usually stop at the basic extra survivables layer, once I've unlocked the whole map and got a shield and a wonder weapon. Doing those extra steps is just a bit too stressful for me, especially since you can't save your progress and come back to a match, and once it's game over, I'm unlikely to start again, especially if it was a long match. This is, I think, a sentiment that a lot of casual players without a lot of time share with me. I love the idea of a zombie storyline that you can play through, but I hate having to commit to doing these quests in one sitting, especially since some of them are so difficult and unfun. I thought we were making steps in the right direction with World War II's casual and hardcore Easter eggs, but here some of the steps are so egregious and make no sense in the context of the story. These are more complaints with the whole zombies mode in general. Less specific to Black Ops 4, but there is content here that, because of a high barrier to entry, can't be appreciated by most people. I don't have the patience to do these in one sitting. Any solutions to this problem would probably involve changing the core zombies experience, which I don't necessarily want to happen, but Treyarch is really pushing for this narrative content with cutscenes and boss fights in every map, which most players like me will probably either never see or end up just watching online. I'm not saying that zombies should play like a linear shooter, but it would be nice to see some alternate ways to experience the narrative firsthand, rather than watching YouTubers tell you how to. As of writing this review, there are 7 maps in the game, 4 from the Chaos story and 3 from the Ether. 3 of these come in the base game, and the others are unlocked through the Black Ops Pass. This is where the true value of the pass is, where most of the quality content has gone. In fact, creativity and overall quality of zombies in general feels a step higher than the rest of the game. There are 2 original and entertaining, or at least intriguing, storylines here. The stuff on display feels thematically consistent and is far more inspired than anything in multiplayer, which is quite bland and generic, or Blackout, which is just a Frankenstein's monster of things from Black Ops. These maps show what Treyarch does best. They take real historical places and put a fictional spin on them. And this shows with the zombified versions of Alcatraz Prison, the Titanic, or the Pentagon. It's also the most technically impressive part of the game. Seeing this many hideously detailed zombies running at you at once is really cool, and there's so much detail packed into the map, so it's really worth having a good look around. Explorative players will be rewarded with plenty of environmental storytelling and audio recordings that reveal new things about the story. In general, however, the game does seem to be lagging behind even Black Ops 3 in terms of visuals, looking generally worse graphics-wise. Maybe it's the extremely crowded heads-up display, which could easily be mistaken for a mod menu. I mean, just look at what happens when you turn on subtitles. You're basically looking at a third of the screen now. Or the cutscenes, which are at times so buggy and awkwardly animated that it had a community arguing over if the classified cutscene was actually a Source filmmaker project. While this mode suffers from the mess that is Black Ops 4, there's evidence of real creativity and passion in these maps. They have really interesting, diverse, and mostly well-acted characters, with some really amazing music which adds to the genuine and usually quite rich tone which characterizes each map. It's the only part of the game with an identity, something completely unique to Call of Duty that strays away from being generic and cliche. If I had to rank the maps in this game, it would be hard. There isn't one that I would really not want to play, which can't really be said about the maps in previous games. But on that same note, I don't feel a call to this game's zombies as strongly as I have with previous titles. My rough ranking, which is definitely open to change, especially with another map on the horizon, is 9, Ancient Evil, Classified, Dead of the Night, Blood of the Dead, Alpha Omega, and Voyage of Despair. 9 and Ancient Evil are, in my opinion, just quite a bit more enjoyable than the other maps, and will definitely be remembered as classics. But the others are all kind of on the same level for me. I also need to mention that there is more zombies content here than there ever has been, even in the base game. Remember in Black Ops 3 when the only thing on disc was Shadows of Evil, a really difficult map which scared a lot of players off? Well, here there are 3 maps which can be played in Classic mode, Rush mode, which is kind of like an arcade mode, and Gauntlet mode, where you complete a new challenge each round. Not to mention that there are also now custom mutations which give you heaps of options for custom games if you want to change up the difficulty. And with the Season Pass, we will have a total of 8 maps in the game, which is 3 more than we usually get with the Pass. So even though all the Ether maps are reimaginings, there is still a lot of value and 8 new Zombies experiences. Overall, Zombies this time has had some really interesting innovations and changes. The formula isn't perfect, it never will be, and this PvE game mode has always been a testing ground for new ideas and gameplay. Every game is going to have its classics and the maps that people hate, and I think people will look back on these maps fondly in the future after a few more games have come out, the same way in which we now treasure much of Black Ops 3. I'm also certain that we will come to love the Chaos story eventually, once it develops and evolves into the future. As for the Ether storyline, I can say I've had enough of this chapter. It's become way too convoluted, and if they continue it, I think we should get another perspective like we did with Victus in Black Ops 2. And can we please go back to a linear storyline? I think Treyarch needs to take a step back in terms of perks and elixirs to find a new balance, because I don't know if they're great innovations. I also think that rather than following formulas with these maps, Treyarch should get back into more experimental gameplay and game modes, and maybe think about how the story and quests of these maps can be more accessible to casual players while still catering to longtime fans, as this could really expand the popularity of the mode. It's unfortunate that this got bogged down by it being in this game, and it would have been nice to see less recycled content, but I do think Treyarch has done a mostly good job this time around. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for this mode, especially with Modern Warfare's new engine and what that will mean for it. Anyway, I know that I skimmed over each map individually, but that's because I thought it would probably be better to talk about them as a separate video. If you want to see discussions of that stuff, then please let me know, because I'm more than happy to talk about it. 2019 has been a bit of a ride for Call of Duty. You only have to visit the subreddits every few months to see the community fluctuate between being up in arms about the latest patch to being wholesome and loving of this game. I've been playing the game all year, hence why a lot of this footage is quite old, and I've had just as many mixed emotions about it. It may seem like I'm beating on this game, but looking back on it, although I got annoyed and put it down plenty of times, I never abandoned it. There was always something fresh to keep me coming back. New operations, new zombies maps, new modes. This might be my most played COD to date, and whilst its problems were seemingly endless, with predatory monetization having a huge impact across all modes, it would be a flat out lie to say that I didn't have fun playing it. And I think that there's something for everyone here. I don't really see myself ever coming back to Blackout or multiplayer, but they're both undeniably enjoyable modes at times. Zombies, on the other hand, even though it slipped up in a few aspects, it's been a ton of fun. There's no doubt in my mind that people will be playing these maps, especially some of those Chaos ones, for years to come. So to answer my question, no, Black Ops 4 is in no way the worst Call of Duty. Maybe the most flawed, maybe the most disposable, but I would definitely not call it the worst.